Hello, my fellow art nerds. Welcome to Stream. Today we have a special, very, very special guest, one of our students. His name is Gabriel Strahl, and he actually went to Manga School in Japan before joining Wing Canvas in 2021. And today he's here as our special guest to share a special cultural experience about learning manga in Japan. And our goal is to shine some light on the industry, the culture, and the hard work that it takes to become a successful comic artist or a successful mangaka, and how we can leverage the current opportunities of self-publishing in comics today. So very, very excited to introduce Gabriel. Welcome, Gabriel.
Hello, thank you. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, of course, of course. It's been a long time, and I know we've worked together for many years, but I'd love to introduce you. So how would you summarize, I guess, your story in a nutshell?
Sure. So I would say that I'm a lifelong artist and I've been doing art forever. Sometimes not so much. Life got in the way. I had big dreams, went to Japan, did art there, did comics, did manga. Stepped away for a while, and since the pandemic, I got back on track, and now I'm doing art again. So yeah, more or less, that's me.
That's awesome. I think a lot of people are, also on the same kind of journey as you. But today, yeah, we're going to talk about how you went from, always dreaming of being a comic artist to actually going to manga school in Japan, ending up in software development, and then how you found your way back. And if you guys are in the chat and you have any questions for Gabriel, definitely let us know. So I see some familiar faces in here. Welcome, Chaos Chameleon. Nice to see you. And Silver Cheyenne, are there manga schools? Yes, surprisingly, there is. All right, Gabriel. So tell us a little bit about what made you dream of becoming a mangaka.
Okay, yeah. So I always loved art and drawings and comics. One of the first contacts I had with Japanese art was with My Neighbor Totoro, which my neighbors had a VHS copy in Japanese. They were Japanese at the time. Well, they were Japanese. And I was a kid with other kids, and we would watch My Neighbor Totoro in Japanese, which I couldn't understand at the time. And I was like so in love with it. I was like 5 years old. But when I was 10 years old, a friend of mine brought Shonen Jump that his grandmother had brought from Japan. And I fell in love with it. It was so amazing. It had a lot of action lines, and the stories were dynamic. And I was watching as well Dragon Ball, Saint Seiya, and all these animes from Japan, and I was so in love with it, and doing my own drawings and doodles. And back then I decided that I wanted to make manga.
Cool. Well, I know there are different types of manga.
Sure.
And I didn't know this before I did some research on it, but can you quickly tell us, like, what are the different genres, and which one you were really drawn to? Like, was there a specific one? Yeah.
So there's so many genres, and unfortunately, most of what we receive here in the West is one specific genre, which is shonen, which is for boys or young adults, right? But there's shoujo manga, the kodomo manga, and seinen manga. There is specific manga for slice of life and other types of manga. So there's a vast gamma of a range of manga types and publishers. So I can definitely say that most people that like manga know Shonen Jump, which is one of the biggest manga publications in Japan, in the world, and it's one publisher from Shoensha that does this weekly manga magazine, which is Shonen Jump. But there are others that do the same style or the same target audience, which is young boys. But there are for young girls, kids, adults. There are horror stories. There are horror magazines. There are slice of life magazines. There are a huge amount of different types. So it's a very big industry in Japan. Very, very, very big industry.
Yeah, I remember one time we had a private mentorship session, and you taught me so much about manga. That was a great time. And I remember you saying that a lot of these mangas are just kind of throwaways. Like,
yes,
they're, just meant to be read once, and sometimes they come in a really thick magazine that you skip through, and a lot of them don't get seen. I found that was so interesting because you could pour so much heart and soul into a piece, and it just gets thrown away. Is that common?
Yeah. So there is a way of publication, and Shonen Jump and other magazines, they are a compilation of stories. So they're not just one story. So you're not going to find a Shonen Jump a magazine with just Dragon Ball or just My Hero Academia. They are chapters that are being published weekly in this big volume. These are disposable. And it's very common for you to go into the metro and find tons of these thrown out because people buy them, they read the chapters that they want, and they discard them. So next week they will buy the next chapter and then read it and then discard them. When they want to collect things, there are different publications, and which they call tonkorons, and mostly the ones that we get here in the West, they already are in this format, right?
Right.
The format of collections. So these are the same chapters that are being published in big volumes, right? So you can see that it's the same manga, but here it's published with more quality. The paper is a better quality, the ink is better quality, and it's meant for collecting. So the weekly and their monthly as well, or bi-weekly, there are tons of different types of magazines, and these are not meant for collecting. The paper is low quality, the printing is low quality. Sometimes it's even printed in different ink colors, like blue or red or pink. Like it's very low quality. It's almost like a newspaper experience. It's not meant for collecting, and people just buy them, read them, and then discard them. So it's really meant for that, and the price is very, very, very low. So you're going to see chapters of a manga that they are 10 pages, 20 pages, 30 pages, and they're there, and it's like a collection from, if you go to Shonen Jump, there's going to be like One Piece and other stories all together, right, in the same volume, so you can pick and choose what you're reading. And the publishers also put like queries for the readers to answer, and questionnaires and things like that. What is your favorite character? Which character didn't you like? Or which character would you want to see more? And people send their information and their answers. And the story also changed based on that. So it's a very living thing, and different from what we get here, which is a volume of something that is already several months compilation, right? It's like very, very different, right?
Right. So there's collectibles and there's disposables.
Yes.
Type of thing.
Sure.
Got it. Yeah. Okay. So almost like a newspaper, but of comics.
Yeah. Yeah.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, Crazy Dash had a question. If you have any tips for slice of life comics, they're planning to make one, but feel like
Yeah.
their episodes are structured to be a slice of life. What is a slice of life comic?
So a slice of life comic is basically telling a small portion of a day-to-day thing, or a day-to-day information or gag, um, or life situation. And there are several very famous slice of life manga. Azumangadayo is one of them. I love several different. And the idea is to have very common things turn out fun, or not fun, right? Depends on what your plan is, but it's to just share. And there's a lot of biographical slice of life as well, like people writing about themselves, about their daily life, their interactions with their dogs, with their cats, with their partners, with schools. So it's very very personal as well. It can be very personal, and it is very interesting. And some of these life of life are made in like a comic strip style, or yonkoma, which is for for images, right? Like for sequences, and they have like a very structured idea of that. It's almost like the comic strip that we have here in the West, but it's a little bit different, but the same. So yeah.
And do slice of life comics have to continue? Like if I or can they just be mini little stories that don't necessarily
No, yeah,
continue?
they don't need to continue at all. It doesn't need to be a sequential thing. It can be one week you're talking about something, the next week you can talk about something completely different. And there are several anime that come from Slice of Life, and they're not made to be a sequential thing in general, right? They can be. It's not. There's no rule, right?
Okay. Okay, cool. Well, hopefully that was helpful, Crazy Dash. There's no
Yeah,
rules. Yeah, so that could, no rules can also be difficult, right?
for
Because when
sure.
you have rules, it's almost like easier to create something. But I've read slice of life comics where it's not mangas, but comics where it's like the same characters. So you recognize the characters, they
Mhm.
reoccur, and it's like a compilation of different slices of life, and then it becomes a volume. So is
Sure.
that possible as well? Like a
Yeah, for
volume of
sure.
slice of life comics?
For sure. And there are some stories that start with one gag, and they evolve into a well-formed story, and then they have a sequence and a structure. But it's not necessarily true for everyone, right?
Right, got it. Cool. Well, I've been seeing some pretty good questions coming up in the chat, and definitely I'm starring them for later. So keep your questions coming. Meanwhile, I wanted to ask you some of your favorite, I guess, when you went to Japan,
Hmm.
why did you decide you wanted to go to Japan? Because I like, first of all, I know I've wanted to go to Japan. I know that a lot of manga and anime fans, like that's one of their dream, right? Is to
Yeah.
go to Japan. So why Japan, and what did you expect?
Yeah. So, as I was saying earlier, I had a lot of contact with Japanese people back in Brazil, in the United States, and their descendants. So, I had a lot of friends that were very much breathing and living the Japanese culture, and from a young age, I was in contact with that, and I appreciated all of it. Right, I loved art and I loved manga, and for sure, it made a huge impact on me, and um, was the main driver for choosing to go. Even just anecdote. Even when I was studying Japanese, some of my teachers that were teaching Japanese, they were seeing the influx of learners of Japanese because of manga, because of anime. And at the beginning, I would say some were reluctant about it, like, oh, you're learning bad Japanese. But at the same time, it is one of the biggest promoters of Japan today. And you can see that in the Olympics, they use characters from manga and anime, and it is basically a staple of Japanese culture. So a lot of people like it, and a lot of people abroad, outside of Japan, consume manga and anime, and for sure it is a welcoming card for a lot of people on Japanese culture. And for me, it was basically that. I loved anime, I loved manga, I loved their culture, the food, and everything. So I would say that is the main polling point for me.
Well, let's look at some of the artwork that you that you created, and I think this was before.
Yes. Yeah.
This was before you went to Japan,
Yeah.
right?
So this was my artwork when I was 16, 17. I was doing a lot of comics and what comics, I mean, zines and manga. So yeah, my style evolved after this, but basically, yeah, I was doing a lot of this. Mm.
Yeah, lots of fun. We can definitely see some of your early influences. And what did you just kind of self-teach, like when you were doing, like, this is a Digimon comic.
Yeah.
Um, eh, did you do this? Like, did you actually study this, or were you mostly self-taught at this point?
So mostly self-taught. I did do some workshops. There were workshops here and there in Brazil that I did for comics and for manga as well. So I did a few, but mostly I did a lot of drawings and studies on my own. This Digimon one was something that I was really proud at the time, because I entered a competition in Japan with people that were doing like a compilation of stories based on Digimon, and I did this story. It was a very short story, is a 6-page story, and I entered a competition, and I actually won, or not the first prize, but I won to be part of it, and it was later printed and sold at the convention for in Japan. So this was originally made in Japanese. So yeah, this
Wow,
was
that's
before
amazing.
going to Japan. Yeah.
Amazing. And this next one is, so you were entering contests, you
Yeah.
found yourself kind of immersed in the culture, so you were now teaching.
Yeah. So the teaching thing was very funny, because I lived close to a library, and they had like chess classes, and it was a community thing, like a guitar classes, and it was very cheap for students to go there. It was a symbolic price to pay to partake in the classes. And one day, I think I was 18 at the time. I went there and said, I do these zines and I do these manga things. Would you like me to do a workshop here? And they said, yeah, come along. And I started doing it, and it got popular. And at one time, I had 20 students, and we were doing zines and going to conventions, and I helped them print their zines and structure them. Yeah, so it was, I went from not teaching to teaching for almost 6 years. Yeah.
Wow, amazing. And this was in Brazil.
Yeah, this was in Brazil before going to Japan. So at this time, I was doing my bachelor's degree in advertising, which is not art itself, but I was pretty much focused on Japan, and I knew about scholarships in Japan.
Mhm.
So I wanted to study in Japan, and I knew there were scholarships, and I spoke with the consulate, the Japanese consulate. I knew the rules, and I started to apply for scholarships for undergraduate uh, classes in the beginning, because uh, that was my age, and my education so far was for undergraduate. And I did so many tests. I did for it took me 7 years to actually get accepted. And by the time I
Wow.
got accepted, I had finished my undergraduate studies in advertising, and I was able to do a master's degree program with a scholarship. So it was with MEXT, which is the educational body of Japan, and they have scholarships for international students, and they pay for your study and your stay in Japan and all of that. But it's a fairly sought after program, so there's very little spots to be part of, and yeah, each region in the world has different rules for how many spots there are. If I recall back then, for a master's degree, there was only 3 spots in Brazil, and I was the third after
Wow.
7 years trying. So it is fairly competitive. And there are undergraduate exams as well. And depending on the level that you're going after, if it's a technical school, if it's undergrad, if it's a master's or doctorate, there are going to be different tests. So there can be language tests, there can be undergrad tests like math and chemistry and other things like that. So in the beginning, when I was just starting and trying, I was doing like math exams and chemistry exams and language exams. And then later, when I went to master's degree, it was more project related and language exams. So it shifted a little bit, but it's a very interesting program, and I would highly recommend if anybody is looking into it. But it's very difficult as well to get in.
Nice. Wow. Well, congratulations. That must have
Thank you.
felt like a dream come true.
For sure.
And so, okay, so you go to Japan.
Yeah.
What would you say were your expectations going in? What did you expect Manga School to be
Yeah.
like?
So my expectations were evolving and to be true. At when I got accepted, there weren't like, I was so happy being accepted that I wasn't thinking very clearly of what I expected. But it was quite different. So when I got there, I had 1 year of research, and during that research, I could do whatever I wanted, and I did a lot of manga classes. And for sure, I was expecting that we would be taught specific techniques and specific art styles, and like, oh, this week we're going to draw like Dragon Ball, next week we're going to draw like Naruto, then later we're going to draw like different artists. And it wasn't like that at all. Obviously there were anatomy classes and other things like general ideas, but when it came to manga, most classes were about story and creating your own thing. And here is where I make a link with the conversation we were just having about the different styles in Japan. There are so many, so there is no wrong style for a manga, and there are very famous manga that most people would say that the style is so crude and bad. And a lot of you in the chat will know like One Punch Man, and One Punch Man is very famous, but it started with this artist that most people would say that can't draw, and in fact it's very popular, and he evolved, And at one point, they hired somebody else to draw because they knew, like, oh, look, this is going to boom, and all of that. And this artist that became the writer ended up saying, you know what, I'm going to write another story, and I'm going to draw this other story. And he evolved. And there are many art styles and different ways of making comics in Japan, and there's not a specific like, say, way of drawing that is correct. So that was the main thing that I was surprised, that blew my mind, was that teachers were looking at my comics and say, oh, this is cool, you have your own way of doing things, you have your own like style. Don't try to mimic somebody else's style. Don't try to mimic a renowned art style, but do your own thing. And there's going to be a market for that, for sure. And definitely that was the case, and it was very surprising. So yeah, that was one of the things that surprised me the most. The second was the pacing of the classes and the production schedule, which most people don't really understand. Like here in the West, we get these, right, and these are 200 page something volumes, and if you were to produce these, we would tend to think like, oh, I'll take a year to do this and that. But it doesn't work like that in Japan, where in Japan they're publishing like 20 pages, 60 pages chapters weekly.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah,
Holy
so
smokes.
it's obviously there are monthly magazines and publications, and there are artists that are in a hiatus, or they do huge breaks, but in the majority, they're publishing these stories weekly, and it's one artist that is making 20 to 60 pages each week. And sometimes these artists have assistants that help them and do parts of the story, like parts of the art, and do like the filling the blanks and background and action lines and sound design in the comics. But in general, it's one artist doing that, so it's a lot, and there's a lot of pressure to be performant, because you have to keep up with that, you have to do stuff. And most of my colleagues were doing that, and this is where I got frustrated, I think, because I wasn't. And back in Brazil, I was doing a lot of manga. I don't think that I wasn't doing a lot, but not in the same pace. I wasn't doing a 20 page zine in 1 week. I was doing it in 2 months maybe, or taking breaks and doing that. And when I got to Japan, people were like doing a lot. And we had these rooms where there were just desks that you can go in and draw, and people would be there like way over time, like not just like normal hours. I had colleagues that were sleeping in university, so it was intense in that sense. And this pace was one of the things that really made a huge impact on me.
Yeah, I mean that requires so much discipline. I'm just thinking that type of pressure from the very beginning must have been just super hard, taxing on mental health too. Like, is that
for sure.
Was it expected that if you weren't able to deliver at that pace, that you would just not make it?
I think that was one of my expectations. I never heard that from teachers at all.
Okay.
I didn't get that feeling from anybody. It was mostly myself looking at the general public, right? The general all the other students, and saying, wow, these guys are almost pros, if not pros. That there were some students that were already being published, like doing competitions and getting published, and I was like,
Mhm.
huh, I need to be at their level, and I wasn't. So that was hard. And knowing what I knew before. So I was always a manga freak. I loved manga and animation, and there are so many artists that they're well known, and they have health issues, and they have to take a hiatus or a stop. And it's well documented in Japan about the manga culture, how it is very, very hard, and how a lot of artists, to be published, they have to do work for free for a long time until they are picked up, and their story can be uh, continued or not, depending on the success this story has. So it is grueling work for sure, and I think that made a huge impact on myself, and made me have these beliefs that I wasn't performing the way the other students were.
Yeah, that must have been a lot of pressure all at once. And interesting how the instructors just kind of let it,
Yeah,
they weren't pressuring you necessarily,
yeah,
but that internal pressure, I think, is something that a lot of our students also fight with. I mean, me too. I mean, artists are particularly hard on themselves.
for
You
sure.
know who
Yeah.
you are in the audience. So if not adding to this pressure, what would you say the Japanese instructors emphasized?
So I would say that they were very laid back, and they
Oh,
were
okay.
they were yeah they were almost like, here's your assignment, go out in the world and do it. Um that was weird, right? Because your expectation is to be the opposite, and that they would be very strict, but it wasn't. And people were going outside of the classroom and doing their work, and sharing, and doing art. um, I would say that one of the things that they kept pushing, and all of classes had the same theme, was, experience for yourself the world, and bring that to the table. Like, don't try to just write a story of something that you don't know about, and like, write about uh, something that you don't care about, or you haven't lived it, and try to follow a trend. They were always pushing against that, and trying to push your live experiences, your background, your interests. So if you like something, do that, because there's going to be a market for that if you like it. Because once you like it, you're going to put time into it. You're going to want to create more stuff into it. And um, again, going back to how many different audiences and styles there are, uh, if you like insects, go do a manga about insects, and you're going to
Maybe I
find a
will.
public. And there are manga about insects in Japan.
Wow.
They're like, even sports. Like, there's a huge portion of people that like manga about sports, and not necessarily the sports are famous or popular or anything like that. They're just like, okay, people like them, and they do it. And so if you like something, if you're inspired by something, go and write something about that and live. And I know that this might be weird, but if you think about it, most artists are inside doing their own thing, like going in their own world, and the idea is that you should share that world but live your world as well, right? Like go out and do things. And in Japan, as we were talking, it was very grueling to be a manga artist. So the people were a long time in university, and the teachers were like, go outside, like live, have an experience, do stuff, and once you do that stuff, come back and then write about it, or slice of life, or
Right.
if you like horror or something, like live stuff, and then you're going to be able to bring it back into to your manga, and stuff like that.
That's actually very good advice because I went to school in America. I went to art center and I studied comics and storytelling as well. And the approach that the Americans have is more like see what's working out there, do master studies, and then kind of turn it into your own. Whereas in Japan, it's almost like live your life, tell your story, be authentic because that's what it takes to stand out, instead of kind of chasing what's popular or jumping on trends or playing that social media game,
Yeah,
keyword stuffing, whatever. It's more about just kind of like if you're going to do this and spend so much time and grueling effort to produce something, it better be something that you care about,
yeah, for
because
sure.
otherwise it's not going to be meaningful and you're going to lose that drive to
Yeah,
finish it.
for sure. And the same can be said for webtoons and all these other formats that are popular today. Like if you're going to do something for a long time, you're not gonna succeed if it's something that you're not interested in, if you're not passionate about it, or maybe you're going to be able to do it for a couple of months, but if you're going for the long run, you have to be interested in it. And the readers will notice your passion about it. Like if you're talking about
Mm,
let's go back to a specific topic, right? Like I like volleyball. If I were to write a manga about volleyball, I would know all the rules, I would know all the things out of the box because I like volleyball. But if I were to write something about hockey, well, I know Faye, you like hockey, but I'm like I'm a noob in hockey, so it would take a lot of effort to be in touch with that world and research about it, and you know what are the rules, what are the players most famous about, what how
mm,
competitions work. For volley, I know all of that, and I know famous players. I know the rules, and I can think about a lot of things. And when I read manga like Haikyuu, which is a very popular
yeah,
volleyball manga, I can sense that the artist also loves manga because volley, because of
yeah.
volleyball, because it is there. You can see the action. I remember playing volleyball and doing those things, those types of strategies, those types of things that were happening. And the same can be said about romance manga, slice of life, action. Like if you're passionate about it and you put your own view, the readers are going to be able to connect, and they are going to be able to get interested. And that's a huge difference from, as you said, Faye, from American comics, where there are staples like Superman, there are staples like Spider-Man, and all these characters, and the artists have to mold their stories into those
Right.
staples. So they're not writing from their experience as superheroes, they're writing on the experience of those characters. Well, manga, it's more about um, different stories, different characters that you're going to create on your own, and you're going to evolve with them, and they're going to evolve with the readers as well. And it's such an amazing thing that you're free from that, right? Like you can actually hear what people are saying, and you're going to be able to, like, oh, I never thought my character could do that, and then you can do that, and you can change, and you can do so. I would definitely suggest that people start doing what they really like and what their interests are, not what is popular, right? Don't trend chase, right? Like go after the things that you are uh, enjoying in life. And that was one of the main thing that my professors in Japan used to say to people, like don't chase things that you don't know about, don't chase things that you don't enjoy doing. Like do the things that you really enjoy. If you like weird things, do those things. Like
Tap
don't
into your
yeah,
weirdness. Yeah.
like do the weird stuff. And there's a lot of mangas that are weird. Like I know that some comments said like this manga is very weird, right? This manga is very weird, and it's famous, and it's booming, and it's not because of the art style. And there's some mangas that are very much about weird things, and people love them, like weird situations, and like just do those things that you really like, and people will enjoy it, right? Like that's a point.
Yeah. I think authenticity as an overall theme is definitely something that artists need to tap into and just kind of tune out the, what's popular, because before, I mean, there are things like, your classic superheroes like Spider-Man that gets regurgitated and retold, many, many different ways and different styles. And those are, we know that those are popular. But I think in today's day and age where everything's popular for 15 minutes, it's more than ever. People can sense when something's like inauthentic. People can sense, just like people can sense when art is made by AI. They can sense when it's not really lived, right? Or you're telling a life story that doesn't, or a slice of life comic that doesn't feel authentic. And so I think that is actually very wise. It's very wise advice, because I feel like here in the West, we're told how to get to success quickly, like really quick, and it's all about quick wins. Whereas maybe in the East, it's more about kind of like, I don't know. I feel like it's wisdom for life, like live your life and tell your story versus like, that rat race of, oh my gosh, I got to get here quickly, even though you felt some of that pressure, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like that self-imposed pressure to do that. So how did you find, like, how were you able to balance those two conflicting ideas or like ways of producing?
Yeah, so I would say that it was a challenge, and I definitely didn't succeed 100%, right? Because after Japan, I quit art in a sense because I didn't feel like I was succeeding. And even with making something that I like, that I would be able to maintain, was difficult for me at the time, because I was trying so hard to get integrated in Japanese culture with everything they were doing. And there were moments where I was trying to tell a story that wasn't authentic, because I was trying to mimic, right? I was trying to write about school life in Japan, which I didn't attend. So how was I going to be able to write about school life and things like that in Japan if I didn't go there? So one of the teachers actually stopped me at one point and said, "Don't write about that. Like you're not going to be authentic, right? Even if you write it in Japanese," which I did at the time. It wasn't authentic. So they asked me, write about your experience. And one of the stories that I came up with was like an island that I mainly based on Brazil, and I tried to create a story based on that, on those things. So there are different scenarios where you have to understand that you're not going to share the same culture as the people that you're trying to communicate, and that's the beauty of it. Use that. And I didn't know this for my entirety of my classes, and that was one of the challenges that I had. And I would say that I kind of failed, because I it took me a long time to realize it. right? It took me a long time to quit trying to mimic what they were doing and do my own things. And like I started to avoid creating characters that would look like they were Japanese characters, and started making them more Brazilian or more
Mm.
Western, and have more Western behaviors, instead of creating a story that was Japanese per se. And that was when I started breathing a little bit, but still the pressure to produce, to be part of you know a group of people that are producing a lot, was challenging. So halfway there, Faye, I would say I wasn't able to do that for at the time. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, just to give you guys an idea, we were talking about disposable comics versus collectibles, and I think you have an example here. I just want to show it quickly because I think it's insane. Like it's almost like phone book size volumes
Yeah.
of work. So let's just show this.
Yeah.
So were these some of the disposables, or were they?
Yes. Yeah, these
Yes.
are
Oh my
all
goodness.
disposable, right? So on the left, this is a Shonen Jump, but the monthly Shonen Jump, and this is the whole year of 1997.
Whoa.
So this was 1 year of Shonen Jump monthly. Uh, and there are weekly volumes, and on the right you have very different styles. Like you have um, seinen style, you have child style, like second grader style. The top
Wow.
right, you have girl love stories, on the bottom left. So very different styles, and these are all disposable. Okay, these are all printed versions on very low quality paper that people will read, and they'll go throw it away. And you can find these in garbage bins all over the country, because they people read them, cool, throw them away.
And how much would they cost, would
Oh,
you
like a
say?
coffee, a cup of coffee. They are very
Oh my
cheap.
goodness.
They're very
Wow.
cheap, and the paper itself, it's very cheap. I think I also have another picture, Faye, which is the same story, which is it
Is
put
it the
in?
next slide?
I think it is. It is
Yeah.
Tsubasa, which is by Clamp,
Mhm.
which is a very famous studio, right? That made Cardcaptor Sakura, and all these famous things. And on the bottom left, you can see the weekly publication of that story. And on the right, you can see on top, it's the Japanese version of the Tonkobon, and on the bottom is the Brazilian version of the same story, right?
Oh,
And on the
cool.
right, it's like the collectible, the one that we use to collect here in Canada and United States. And these are collectibles. Like these are only those stories. And on the left, these are the throwaway, right? They are weekly or monthly publications with several stories. They're not just Tsubasa. Like they're gonna have other stories in it, like um, 20 or 30 stories. And these are weekly volumes. And sometimes the chapters can have 20 pages, they can have 10 pages, they can have 60. It depends really on the demand, right? On the artist as well. And because manga is very dynamic as well in nature, sometimes the chapter will not advance that much in the story. It's
Mm, I
gonna be
see.
like there's a famous gag on the Dragon Ball Z thing, where the planet's exploding in the next 5 minutes, but it takes like forever to pass those 5 minutes. It's the same thing with manga, right? Like it's sometimes the artist is going to put so much into it, and the characters are going to be looking at each other, and then they're going to do like some small comment, and like, oh, you're not going to defeat me, I'm level 500,000, and oh yeah, I'm going to defeat you, and that can be a whole chapter just on that. And people read that, and that jumps into another tip as well, right? Like with paintings and some art, you're going to have that art displayed, and people are going to analyze it and go into depths, and like, oh, the brush stroke and the color variation and all of that. And there can be a full contemplation on that. With manga, sometimes you're going to spend a whole month in a simple page, and people are going to read it in 10 seconds or less, and they're going to, cool, next, right? And this
Right.
can be frustrating for a lot of people, like not just with manga, but with comics in general, right? Like they are spending so much effort on this drawing, and people are going to read it very quickly, and they're going to give you like, oh, this is cool, and that's it. Or there's going to be very rare cases where people are going to stop and look at each panel and say, oh, this is a nice perspective, or this is a nice lettering,
Right.
this and that. And um, when I was beginning doing my zines, we had, me and my friends were doing zines, and we had several stories. And one of the stories that we kept getting feedback from, like positive feedback, were the ones that were done very quickly and were funny, and were engaging because we liked
Hmm.
doing them, and not necessarily the ones that we actually put more effort into. And you start realizing, yeah, that's the beauty of it, right? Like people are not going to stop and look, and, oh, look, you made a mistake here, you forgot to fill in this black spot, or there's two left hands, or you know sometimes people are just going to read it and love it. And again, going back to the One Punch Man story, like if you search One Punch Man, the beginning, it's gonna be very crude art, and but the story was cool and people loved it, and it was a gag, and it's
Mm.
very, very famous today. So yeah.
Yeah, that's good. It's good to know, actually. And even in Western comics, like I remember watching the early versions of The Simpsons, and they were all wonky and weird looking, right? So
Yeah.
it takes time to perfect something like that. And I know that a lot of artists, me included, I think a lot of artists are perfectionists, and we want
Mhm.
everything to be perfect before it goes out. But really, when you present something, even with the flaws and the marks that aren't erased, like people are very forgiving,
Mhm.
and they appreciate the overall story more so than every line art and like all the details. Because even if you think about like, if you remember the last movie that you watched, right, you're probably not going to remember every single detail. Like I forget movies, even really good ones, I forget them like a year later or even months later. I just like remember the feeling that I had, or
Yeah.
moments of that movie, or what made me laugh, or just like the interesting characters. Like those are the things that I would remember, but I don't remember even too much of the stories or the details. So all those things eventually fade. um, and I think that it's really healthy to kind of remember that most people are not reading your story and judging your art. They're just
Yeah. and
reading your
and
story.
For sure, and it can be paralyzing, right? Because
Yeah.
we usually think that people are going to be very critical and analytical of our art, and especially with comics, people have these, and zines and manga. People have these amazing stories, and they don't share them, or they don't even start because they are worried that their art style is not correct, or their pacing is not good, or they don't have a publisher, or they don't have the means to do them. And I would say go against all of those thoughts. just do the work and do share it. Go to your local pharmacy, has a Xerox machine, a copy machine. Make copies of your art and just share with people, and you're going to get a lot of good feedback. A lot of people will grab those physical things, like, and they're going to say, oh, this is so cool, you did this, did you do this? Like, it's not AI, it's not digital. You can share it digitally, I'm not saying against that. Do that too, but don't be afraid that your stories are not good enough, your art is not good enough, because there is no such thing, at least with manga. I would say, obviously, if you want to get published in the biggest publisher, there's going to be rules, there's going to be qualifications, and how many bubbles, or how many art and this and that, and all these rules. But don't focus on those, because there's so many different types, and just do the thing that you like, and eventually people will notice, they will like it, and they will see that. And don't stop. Like, I had a lot of friends that had these awesome ideas, and they were so afraid that people will steal them. And I'm
Yeah.
like, no, they're not going to steal them. Like, don't worry about it. It's very, 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 very rare that somebody's actually going to steal something, like an idea or an art style or something. Just go there, do your thing, and share it with people. Like, it's so much pleasing and rewarding, doing the social thing of sharing, and getting looking at people and seeing their reaction to the things that you're doing. It's so much fun.
Yeah. Well, speaking of zines and low stakes, I just want to show an image of you here
Yeah,
selling your zines.
yeah,
And I love zines. For those of you who don't know what a zine is, Gabriel, maybe you can summarize it better
yeah.
than I
So
can. What is a zine?
zine stand for short for magazine, and there are like fanzines and other types of zines. But zines are like a low compromise publication of a story or anything, right? Like, there are rock bands that have zines, and they tell stories, they tell some type of thing that you want to share. There are zines about politics that you can write about, clubs that have their zines. For me, I used to and still do zines with manga related zines, and you have your story, you publish them in a sense that you printed it yourself, or you can even pay for people to print it. But the overall idea is that it's not tied to a publisher, or a printer in a sense of somebody printing professionally. So it's more loose, right? You can do it with your own materials. It doesn't even have to be printed. It can be all handmade, and you can make copies yourself from those. And back in the day, like 2005, I even used a typewriter to write the text for some of
Oh,
my
wow.
zines, like the beginning. Like, I didn't use the computer at all. I would just type in a separate sheet of paper, cut it out, and then glue on top of my art, and that was it. And so it can be very low tech, it can be very high tech. Like, you can today use your computer to draw and write, and all of that. So it is a very popular way of sharing your ideas as well. So it is fun. I really like zines. And in Japan, there's a huge market for zines, and they have different names there, but dojinshi is one of them that's like is specific for that. And there's huge markets, and people go to like Comic-Con and Comic-Con, and which is their biggest one there, and they're selling their zines, and people are paying a lot for those. And there's a very, very big market, and a lot of people start their publications as zines in Japan. And today, with the digital formats, uh, um, with platforms like Tapas and Webtoons. In Japan, they use different platforms in general,
Mhm.
but they're very similar. And people are doing those, right? They're sharing first. They're getting an audience. And when I say getting an audience, it's not like they're doing rev stream, or like they're not trying to make money. They're trying to get an audience, as in people that are interested in their thing. And once it booms, then the publishers go after them, and they publish. And one of the thing is that is so many people want to do that some platforms don't allow descriptions in their stories, or they, like, there's so many stories out there that in Japan and using Japanese, the 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 manga's name or the zine name becomes the description of the story. So you're gonna find stories that are like, young mage that became a cook, or the time that I became a monster or something. And you can see even anime that are starting to use the same thing, because it's easier for to grab the attention of people, right? Instead of just writing the name of something. Like, I have zines that the name is like Damian. Okay, what is it about? Nobody
Right.
knows. You have to open it and read it. So some people are just reading like, oh, the professor that is doesn't like the students, and that's the name. So people are producing and sharing, and zine is a way of doing that. And you can, grab a piece of paper, fold it in half, write something on both sides, copy it, and share it. You don't even have to ask money for it if you don't want to. You can just share your story, and let people give you feedback, or enjoy it, or get comments, evolve, do stuff.
Yeah, well, funny thing is my experience with zines. I was in university, and I wrote a zine about how to fart. And I don't know why I chose the topic. I wanted to do something funny. And and I guess it's a slice of life, because when you've had to fart before, everybody farts, so they know, like, if you're ever in public and you have to fart and you're like, oh my gosh, how do I do this without getting, and get away with it, or like have people not hear me. So then I thought about all these scenes of how, like, the most embarrassing places you could actually have to fart, like during life drawing, in an elevator, on a date, right? And then drew these scenarios. And back then, I had to take my own photos, take my own references. So I asked a friend to come over. I gave her a bottle of wine, and I said, hey, can you make these farting poses so I can take pictures and make a zine? And it just happened. And then I was like, okay, I'm going to test it out and see if people like this stuff, because I was being weird. And I ended up selling, like, I made copies, photocopiers. I made like a cover for it. I hand did the covers, and I think I made an edition of 20 or something. I sold them for $10 I was at Comic-Con, I think it was in LA. And people bought them. I made $100 off of a fart story that I
Yeah.
just did for giggles, and like, people like that stuff. And then decades later, I see a book published, and the book is like, Know Your Poo, I think was the book. And of course, like, I wrote a fart scene, so I'm like, oh my gosh, this person, like, that's the niche, right? Is like the
Yeah.
things that you connect on that are weird, poop jokes, fart jokes, whatever it is. And Gabriel and I did a zine exchange, so I have a couple of your zines
Yeah.
that I got in the mail today, this morning. Super excited, and lots
Yeah.
of fun.
Yeah, for sure. I really love zines, and it's been my I would say one of my passions for forever. And I would highly recommend people to make their zines and share, and even go to conventions and try to share with people. And no expectations, just share your zines, your stories. It's a fun way to experiment as well. Don't try to copy other people. Just do the fart zine. Do about the day that you tripped and broke your nose, or do weird zines, and I think that's the freedom of it, right? You can test things and learn the ups and downs of writing your story, of printing. It's fun. It's very very physical as well. You're going to have your own thing published in your hands, and you can share. You can yeah, definitely one of those things that is very 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 fun to do. And for me, so when I was 16 ish, I went to a convention, and people were doing zines, and they were selling their zines, and I was like, "Whoa, this is so amazing!" And this was like a Friday, so it was a 3-day convention. I went home, I grabbed all material I had, and I created a zine. And the next day, I went to the event, and I shared that zine with those people that I bought the zine, and they were like, "Whoa, this is so cool!" And I remember that was one of the best things ever. It was my first ever exchange, and it was so fun. And I did it in one day, and
Wow.
I went to the copy house, and I did like 3 or 4 copies only. It was like very very crude, and I had like this very simple idea. I did it. I wrote my name. I wrote like a description, and I shared it. And I did a lot of that. And I traveled throughout Brazil, sharing my zines and sharing other people's zines. So we had like a group of like almost like association, like of people that were doing zines, and we shared our zines. And we would have people travel with our zines, so not necessarily we were the ones selling all the time. I would say that the first time that I went to Japan, it was because of the zines as well, because I was very much involved with the zine production in Brazil, and was sharing with a lot of people. And again, I wasn't the best artist. I wasn't the best at writing stuff, but I was passionate about it, and I was sharing stuff, and people loved that, and people were resonating with it. And it got me places, right? It got me to Japan. It got me to teaching. It got me to doing all those things and meeting people, which is so fun.
Awesome. Well, according to our polls in the live chat, 56% said they are big manga fans. 31% said they dabble, and 13% said I'm a noob. So
Yeah.
for the 13% who say
Yeah.
they're noobs, what would be your top 3 mangas to
three.
start with? I know that's really
Oh.
hard because I know you love so many different genres.
Yeah,
But
yeah. So my suggestion, okay, and I think I gave you this suggestion as well,
yes.
Faye. Like go to a place like that has a lot of manga, right? Like even Shonen Jump has their platform here in Canada and United States, where you can check those out legally as well, or go to a manga store, right? Like
Oh,
go
yeah,
to a
those are good.
physical brick and mortar store and look at the manga and grab something that fetches your attention, right? Don't One of the things that I think people get frustrated is that people will say like, "Oh, you should read Demon Slayer," but if the person is not much into action, or
Zombies.
samurais
Yeah.
and all the swords and all those things, they're like, it's not going to be cool. Or if I say haiku for, like I love volleyball,
Yeah,
like they're
true.
gonna be like, well, I don't like volleyball. Or Dragon Ball. Like I grew up watching Dragon Ball, reading Dragon Ball. If you're not much into that, people are not gonna be they're not going to be excited about it. Like Naruto, and some people hate some stuff just because it's popular, right? If I say One Piece, some people will say One Piece is the best ever, and some people will say, oh, it's too popular, I don't like it. Like just because it's popular is like people won't like it. But
Right.
it depends on what your genre is, and find your genre. If you like gags, if you like slice of life, if you like just a joke, there's so many different things, and some are popular right now and they might be easy to find, and um, some are not very easy to find, but they're very different and unique. So it really depends. My favorites, if I had to say, like stories that really made an impact on me, I would say Dragon Ball, Senseiya, Yu Yu Hakusho was a huge hit for me. I would also say Rama, which is uh, older. Well, all of these are very old, but in recent years, the mangas that I've been reading and I really like My Hero Academia. I really like Spy Family. I like Demon Slayer is one of my
Honestly.
favorite as well. So there's very different styles as well. So it really depends, and you don't have to start with manga. You can start with anime as well. Like, go, if you're just, you're not interested, or you're not sure, go watch an anime, see if the type of story interests you, and then, well, you saw the anime, like, oh, this is fun, I'm gonna read the manga. And sometimes it's the same story, sometimes they're different, right? And sometimes it can
Yeah.
be very slight difference in them. And there's so many different anime that are sometimes even better than the manga, and can be either way, but it depends. And I myself started with anime. I think the anime brought me into manga, and anything from Ghibli, anything from
Yes.
Ghibli. Like, I think it's one of those universal things. And if you don't like Ghibli, it's fine. There's other anime. They're very different anime, and very weird anime. Like, uh, so there is one movie that really impressed me. That is Tokyo Godfathers, which is a very now older anime from the early 2000, and it's basically about three homeless people that find a baby close to Christmas, and they're trying to find the baby's mother or go to the police, but they're homeless and people think they are kidnapping the kid, and they have their own issues. So it is such a warming anime, and it's very different. And there are animes for crying, there's manga for crying, there is manga, heart manga, there's like Monster, and other manga that are Tokyo Ghoul, and they're horror. So get something that interests you. That's
Yeah,
And there's so many. And
true.
it even can be something like, oh, you like Pokemon, read the Pokemon manga, it's so fun. I like Pokemon, I like Digimon and all these things too. And like, grab those things that are that are interesting for you. Like, you like samurais, go to Samurai X, which is Rurouni Kenshin. Go to Vagabond. If you like really realistic things, like Vagabond, Slam Dunk. There's so many stuff.
Yeah, I remember my first ever anime that I truly loved, because there's definitely, like, when I went to art school, it was like no anime in your portfolio. For some reason, American schools or schools in the West really disliked anime. And I
Mm.
think it was this competitive nature between like Disney and American style comics, to Japanese. They saw it as a threat. They saw they saw the just the anime and manga culture kind of influencing the West. They were very, I feel anyway, that they were like very threatened by that. And now, there's no denying how
Mhm.
influential it is, even in the West. And even Disney has, even the Disney Channel has anime now. So
Yeah, yeah.
it's definitely very different. But I remember the first anime that I saw that really moved me was Spirited Away. I think that was the best,
Uh,
my favorite overall Studio
yeah.
Ghibli film. But what surprised me is just the story is so different.
Mhm.
and there were parts that were really scary, like parents
Mhm.
turning into pigs. And I feel like they're I'm not going to
Yeah,
give away, but yeah, Spirited Away is definitely a really amazing movie if you
yeah,
haven't
yeah.
seen it already. Um, okay, well, we talked about all of the inspo. We talked about all of the good stuff, and
Mhm.
now I kind of want to I want to ask, okay, what was sort of the turning point? Because I know you said you went to manga school, you felt you were unsuccessful,
Yeah,
and then you kind of came back, and then you went into something totally different. And I
totally
think,
different. Yeah.
yeah, I think a lot of people fear that if they
Mhm.
follow their dreams, especially with art or especially with making comics, it's not a very lucrative thing to do. And there's a lot of fear going into it, not ending up in the creative industry or kind of like wasting art school. You know, why? I guess, can you tell us a little bit about what happened after?
Mhm. Mhm.
And did you give up? Yeah, and why software?
Yeah. Okay, so the answer to did I give up? I would say yes, I did.
Yes. Okay.
And I'm not ashamed of it. It was a decision that I made. Like, everybody has to do their own decisions, and um, I don't regret it, but I did revert it. That's going out there, right? So I left Japan very, very much frustrated because a lot of things happened there, and I wanted to be a mangaka. Didn't work out. I got a little bit depressed at the end of my tenure there, and at one point I just said no, like this needs to stop, and I returned to Brazil after I finished my master's there. Once I got back to Brazil, I tried to maintain my art as my profession, and for 6 months it kind of worked, but I was so frustrated. I was so um, I would say that it because it took me so long to go to Japan and achieve that that dream of being in Japan, working in Japan, and doing all those things in Japan. Once I got back, it felt very, very much frustrating. So after 6 months, I decided, no, I need to change. I need to do something else. And back then, I was doing web design as like a gig, and some of you know that sometimes art doesn't provide as much as other areas, and at the time web design was providing more, and I started getting more clients. I started getting more stuff to do, and I decided, you know what, why don't I go back to school, and then I actually go to IT and work with software. And I really enjoyed games as well at the time, and I wanted to develop stuff, and I've always loved computers. So it wasn't just because it was popular. So computers were always in my life, even when I was a kid. We had, the Macintosh, the old MacBooks, right? We had Macintosh, we had 386, we had different types of computers throughout my life, and I always loved those. And when I was in school, I never thought that it was possible to study. As the same as with art, it wasn't as popular as it is today. Like today, computer science is very, very much popular. There's a lot of people doing it for the money and the opportunities. And I was so frustrated with art that I said, no, this has to stop. I'm hurting myself, and there was a lot of resentment and lot of pain there, to say the least. And then I started a different area, and the pay as well was significantly higher than what I was getting with art at the time. Um, and I kind of never looked back for a long time. And For 6 years or so. I just did that. I went back to school. I studied. I graduated. I worked in IT. I worked as a software developer, which I am still today. I'm a software developer here in Canada. I immigrated to Canada. Um, I came here before the pandemic. I started working, and then the pandemic hit. And during that time alone, in your apartment, I started saying, like there's a huge portion of myself that is missing. And there was a huge wound. I have to say that it was a huge wound, because once you love something very, very much and it doesn't work out, it leaves a huge wound. But I knew I had to heal that wound. I knew to, do something different. And one day I found a stream of this school, which was Winged Canvas, and they were doing a stream, and I said, wow, this is cool. Maybe I could, start doing things. And I reached out, I enrolled, and I think the first semester that I did with Winged Canvas, I tried doing comics and manga, I think, and it was horrible for me, and it was very painful, and I almost quit again. And I think it was Faye. I think it was Faye that suggested that I did painting and traditional stuff. And I started the painting classes, and there are several paintings that I did since, and
I'll show
slow.
some of your work.
Yeah,
Yeah, so these
like the one on the left was our first class of painting. It was a gouache painting, and I was so happy with the result, and the class itself. And it changed me, and it helped me heal, because it wasn't too manga focused, right? It wasn't going in that direction, and it let me relearn my passion with art, my connection with art. So for sure it was a painful, and it sometimes it still is painful to think about the life that you tried. You didn't um, succeed in the way you hoped it would be, right? But there is a way to come back, and this is kind of what Winged Canvas helped me do. Like I slowly started doing paintings, and doing some different studies, and learning about oil paintings, which I've never done before, acrylics as well. And like I had done watercolors, but not the other media, and not like this. And then I started doing them, and slowly I was able to talk about art. I was able to talk about projects, and doing paintings, and sharing, and exposing myself again as an artist, as somebody that lived through so many different things, and so many different phases of their art. And yeah, this was basically the last, what, 4 years or so, or maybe more, with Winged Canvas. And yeah, but it was challenging, to say the least. It was very challenging, not because the classes were difficult. No, the classes were very, very fun, but it was challenging for me to face, to face the failure, because it felt like a huge failure, even though nobody said to me like, "Oh, you failed." But to me, it was a failure, because I wanted to be a manga artist in Japan, and I was in Japan doing manga, which, like, a lot of you guys would say like, "Oh, that is the life, that is the dream," and I agree, that is like the life and the dream. But um, it was difficult, and I didn't maintain it. I couldn't stay. I couldn't do it, and yeah. So it felt very, very, you know painful, and it took me a long time to be able to regain a little bit of like my self-worth, and thinking like, oh yeah, the things I do, I can still do them, and I can still share my work, and do all these things and come back to art. And I think it was only this year that I started doing manga again, and I started doing some doodles. There was this one period where I was at work, and I decided to all my lunch breaks do manga study. So I would open a manga at one page, and it's like, oh, this page, and I'm gonna copy it, like uh, only using a ball pen as material. And then I think Faye said, oh, why don't you use a little bit more? And then I started migrating to more materials, and eventually it got me over this slump, I would say. Yeah.
Amazing. So, on the note of like coming back and trying to do manga again, but then trying something new. Because I know you've never done painting before,
Mhm.
and you were mostly, I think when I first met you, you were mostly doing line art. You were very good
Mhm.
at digital, and but you weren't really exploring color or
No.
painting.
Um,
And so did you mentioned that in manga school in Japan, they didn't really teach you how to draw.
no.
So do you think that if you had those traditional skills before you went to before you went to manga school, that it would have been different?
For sure. And
Yeah.
for sure, I mean, I thought a lot about that. That was one of the critics I had on myself, and I compared myself too much to my other colleagues, and some of them were from art backgrounds. Like they had studied in high school art, they had studied in even college level art, and myself, I wasn't one of those. I did that mostly on my own time, and I was studying something else. And as I said before, I focused a lot on passing the entry examination for the scholarship. So I studied a lot of Japanese, I studied a lot of math, chemistry, I studied so much to get there, and I didn't do the basic classes of
Mm.
art and stuff. So I felt like I was missing something there. And if I had done differently, if I had done the traditional art school or something like Winged Canvas, it would definitely be different. That's for sure. I don't regret it, as in, oh, I shouldn't have done it, but it would have had a different result for sure. And um, there were different levels in my art that were missing, right? Like color was something that I've never done before. And I remember in when I was a kid, I would, paint stuff, but not something that I was proud of, or not something that I studied color theory or anything. And when people say color theory, a lot of people say, oh, no, I don't want to talk about it. So that's, I'm not saying that you need to know color theory, right? But I never even heard about color theory. I never heard about mixing colors. I thought that color was, you grab a 12 color pencil, right? Like a kit, and that's what you have to do to paint. And I was terrible at it. I couldn't. I thought like, oh, I'm gonna paint a shirt blue, and then I grabbed the first blue that I found on the pack, and I used that, and it didn't match, and I just gave up. And luckily for me, most manga are in black and white, and I love that, and I still do, and most of my work is in black and white. But I didn't know how to paint. And when I started with Winged Compass, it was one of the things that I wanted to learn digitally first. It
Mm.
was something that we were doing, like these illustrations, and I was like, why choose this blue over that other blue? And it was so weird for me. It was really weird. And digitally, you have all the colors, everything's there. And once I listened to the suggestion of going traditionally, and then I had like this small number of colors that I was like, huh, these don't make sense. And then when I started learning their relationships and doing a color wheel for the first time at almost 40, it was like, yeah, this starts making sense. And it started to help me um, understand that there are some rules, or there are some guides that can help you and can help you improve, not because it's technically necessary, but because they're going to broaden your vision or your knowledge of stuff, and then you can break the rules whenever you want. And um, once I started doing that traditionally, it became way easier because things make a little bit more sense traditionally than digitally. Digitally, they're trying to mimic stuff, but because there's so much power in the digital world, right? All the colors are there. All the colors are there, and you can just tweak here and there, and you don't know what you're actually tweaking. But in the traditional form, you have those colors in your head. Like if you're going through a kit, you're going to have 12 colors, but they have a reason why they chose those 12 colors. Like they may be warm and cool versions of each color of the and you use those to create more colors, and there's techniques to do that, and then you start understanding the relationship with them. So yeah, definitely it helped a lot.
Oh, who would have known
Yeah,
that,
yeah,
that you sometimes you really just have to go back to
yeah,
basics,
for
and
sure.
that there are definitely skills that matter, regardless of the landscape, regardless of how fast technology is moving, regardless of AI, all of that stuff. There are still skills that matter. And that's why, you always want to go back to fundamentals, because there are just some things that if you skip out on learning it, then you'll really never you won't be able to make the decisions that you need to make in order to be at the level you want to be at.
Sure.
um, but we have a good question from Moltar5898, who is asking, if you're still here, thanks for this question. What principles or techniques of manga do you feel have a universal quality which creators can implement into other sequential art mediums like Western comics or webtoons? It's a really good question.
Yeah. So one of the things that screams manga, right? It's action lines, and
Ah,
and
okay.
I know I know that it may be too obvious, but manga is very dynamic. And I'm not saying just action manga, but all manga is very dynamic. It's not a there's not a lot of text involved all the time. And some other types of comics, they are very heavy on text, and they're explaining things, and they have like uh, people thinking and dialoguing, and like manga is very, very much action and feelings and flow. So one thing leads to another, and not necessarily it has to have like this huge information, but the manga itself is the information. So I would say that is universal. And today, even Western comics are starting to use those techniques, and not
Mhm.
just them, but animation and cinema is starting to use those techniques. So I would say that is the universal thing. And um,
Action lines. I just want to show some
yeah,
examples of action lines in your comic. And I remember I was studying a manga, and I did a stream, and you popped in and you were like, add some action lines. And I did it, and it was like way better. But here are some examples of just very
so
simple.
I just
Yeah.
opened Dragon Ball, okay, and maybe people will not see them right away, but if you see, like the hair is actions, and like the car actions, the spoon has stuff happening. It's very dynamic, and it's not just people, like, oh, like it's happening. It has lines, and
Right.
it's not. It's not just people. Like, this is a whole page and there's no dialogue. Oh, there is one. I'm sorry. There
There's some
is.
sounds. Okay,
Yeah, but
yeah.
there is like this. Oh, where is it? Like, there's basically no dialogue, and this is not common in the next page as well, right? Like, this is not common in most other comics forms, right? So manga has this idea of transmitting information with actions and, lines and flow, which I appreciate. And yeah, I would say that is one of the universal qualities that can be, used everywhere.
Yeah, for sure. That's a great question.
Yeah.
We want to answer more of your questions. If you have any for Gabriel, please put them in the chat because we will do some questions at the end. Um, so just to kind of summarize your journey, you then, worked a normal job, right? Like
Yeah.
and then you found your way back into art and you're still kind of practicing today. So tell me about that wound
Mhm.
that you expressed. And I think all creative people, if you are creative and you're put on this earth to to create and not just consume but share your beliefs, your wisdom, your stories, your experiences, because what is life without shared experiences, right? Like, what do you do with your friends when you see them? And a lot of the times we get busy, we have kids, families, obligations, responsibilities, and we don't really have time. But in those times where you're spending with loved ones, or you have 1 hour to meet an old friend that you haven't seen in years, you share your experiences, you share things that you remember, those like fleeting moments, just kind of like we talked about watching a movie. You don't really remember the movie, but you remember how you felt. Um, so all of those shared experiences is really like what you may be put on this earth to do. So if you're a creative person and you're unable to create, or you haven't created for a long time, there's definitely an itch that wants to be scratched, right? It's like this burning desire to create, or it could be a wound where you tried it and you feel like you failed. How is that wound now? Like, do you feel like you're able to fulfill it, or has your life changed for the better?
Yeah. So for sure, it has healed almost entirely. I wouldn't say that it's
Amazing.
100%, but there was one shift in my mind that happened, and it was an important shift. And I think the idea was that I wanted to be like this manga artist published in Japan, and like, there was a very fixed goal, and there was a very fixed idea of what the type of artist I wanted to be, and that made me very resentful, and that was a huge wound when I couldn't do that. So um, it took me a while to understand that there's so many different types of art and artists. And as you said, Faye, there, like, if you're an artist, you want to do art, you want to do stuff, and if you're frustrated because you can't do that specific thing, it kind of, for me, it ruined art in a long term basis. So that shift happened slowly once I realized that I could do art without having to be the professional mangaka in Japan. I could do art without, like, a huge paycheck. I could do art um, the way I wanted to do it, slowly and my pace. And there's always a chance that I actually, give everything up and start doing art full time, for sure. That feeling exists, but the pressure, I had to relieve it, right? I had to say no to that pressure. I had to say, I think that is part why I'm frustrated, because I have this pressure that I need to be perfect, that I need to get money out of it, that I need to do commissions, I need to get a job in art, I need to, you know, be famous. I need to have followers. I need to have all these things that are not exactly art, right? They are part of it, but they are not art. And once I started grabbing the pencil, grabbing the paints, and just doing it, it started to feel more relaxing. And that's one of the things that class helped me, because each week we have a project or we're doing something, and it was like, oh, I can just relax and do it. And there's nobody at the end of the day asking me, oh, you have to deliver this, or you have to publish this. I uh, For a long time, I didn't even use social media for my art at all. I just like blocked it all. I was completely off, because I wanted to be for myself. And this helped me, right? This helped me get over this idea of perfectionism, of being this one type of artist, and having that as even if it's just 1 hour a week during class, or if it's just 1 hour a week on my own, doing my own things, doing my own doodles, my own drawings, my own studies, reading something that I like, going to a museum. A few months ago, for the first time ever, I went to a museum. I grabbed a pad. I grabbed the pad that was there, and I started sketching in the museum. I have never done that before, and it was so relaxing, so cool. And
Nice.
yeah, and it's it's a journey, right? And a lot of artists get frustrated because life happens, and unfortunately, there are some circumstances that don't allow us to do this full time. And sometimes you have families, you have obligations, you have debt, you have other things, and you have to do these other things for sure. You cannot we cannot sell the dream that every artist is going to be a well-paid artist, unfortunately, right? So life happens to some, but I would say that don't give up on art. Maybe the art as a full-time thing, maybe that's not part of it, but I wouldn't also uh, rule it out, because it can be. It can be, if you adapt and you change your idea, or if you heal some wounds because you're stuck with like I was, with a dream that was very, very difficult. Very, you know like, my dream was incredibly difficult, incredibly. And I say that I was very fortunate that I went as far as I did. Like, I went to Japan. I went all in, and it took me a long time, like almost a decade, to get there. And I almost did the entire dream, but I didn't. And it's life, right? Sometimes you have to adapt. And I would suggest that to everybody, right? Like, adapt and think, and maybe you do a zine and you get published, and you get a lot of money. You do webtoons, and you get into the the webtoons. I think it's Canvas. You get promoted there and get a lot of money, or you go to Japan and be a mangaka artist there. It can happen, or you can be a painter and get a lot of money. That can happen. I'm not saying that is not a possibility. That is a possibility. But I would also suggest that even if that is not happening, don't quit art. Just keep doing it and have a good relationship with art. Do your doodles, do your paintings, do your, you know, sketches, stories. If you like creating stories, create stories. If you like painting, paint. And yeah, that is freeing in itself.
Yeah, I think what the advice that you're giving is actually, um, just remember why you fell in love with art. For you, it was storytelling and the magic that manga had when you were a child. For me, I remember I went to art school because I wanted to illustrate children's books, because children's books were so magical, and I loved the illustrations, and I also loved how it could tell a story. I was fascinated with the idea that art is a universal language, that you could travel to any place in the world and you could communicate with just a pencil and a sheet of paper. You could, and my father told me the story of when he went to Venezuela, didn't speak a lick of Spanish, and was he just wanted something hot in a soup. So he drew a fish in a bowl with some steam coming from it, and magically he could order. And this was before, Google Translate or anything like that. And so art is this universal language, and there's a whole genre of manga that has no dialogue, right? You were telling me about this. There's a whole competition that you could enter that is just purely like a comic or a story without using any words, without using any dialogue.
So it's called Silent Manga Competition, and it's one of the biggest ones for international people that are out of Japan to enter, and it's made silent to promote the story itself without dialogue, because like if you have to translate it, it's going to lose a little bit of the wording, and if you know about translations and different languages, you're going to be lost in translation, right? That is going to happen. And I think your father's story about the fish with the soup, excellent. Like it's easier to convey that than actually using soup that may be translated to Spanish is a different thing, and they're thinking about a specific type of soup and not so translation is difficult. And this competition, the silent manga, is the rules are like you don't put dialogue, and you can enter and you can be published in Japan, and you can even get a publisher contract with them to do new stuff. Some of them some of these have like trips to Japan as well as a reward. So there's all different types of rewards and different submission dates as well for the silent manga, but it is one of the ones that I would recommend if you're interested in doing this, because it doesn't need a story as in dialogue. It just needs a story as in visual story. So if you have a pun or something or an emotional thing, it's so much it's a fun way, but it's difficult as well to convey a story without writing text, right?
Absolutely, a really good challenge too.
Yeah.
To illustrate a story without any words. And our life is long, and it's all of the lessons that I think we go through in life, some of them work out, some of them don't, but ultimately they make up who you are. And like you said, you have no regrets. You had this wonderful magical experience, and then when you went there, you realized that how you probably wouldn't be as healthy as you are if you had become a mangaka and succumbed to the pressure of all of the stuff that you need to produce. And like, I think when I realized that illustrating children's books, what turned me off was that I illustrated a children's book and I showed it to some publishers. I remember showing it to some big name publishers like Scholastic, and their feedback to me was that, oh, you can't talk about picking your nose, or like I wrote a story because I'm weird, and I wrote a story about this little girl who and it's based on a true story, because when I was a kid, I was an only child, and all I wanted to do was just like make potions and play, and I had to do a lot of playing by myself. So I would make these potions in the sink using like whatever I found, like, so in my story that I wrote, it was like this little girl who was mixing like spilled milk, and like she peeled off a couple scabs and put it in, and she made this monster come to life out of this potion. And I remember the publisher was like, oh, you can't talk about scabs, and she shouldn't be picking her nose. And I'm like, but that's what kids do. Right?
Yeah.
Like, so I got really turned off because there was so much censorship. There was like all this stuff that I couldn't say. And so for a while I was like, I don't want to do that anymore. But then now, now I have a kid and I'm reading these stories and I'm like, oh my gosh, this magic is coming back to me now. I see the difference in, who I was then and who I am now, reading certain stories to my kids, and and how much my kid is like, how much magic that creates in his life. And now I'm thinking maybe I will illustrate that story, or go back to doing it. Yeah, exactly. Wasting shampoo, like Jaron said. Exactly. And things evolve and things change, and
Mhm.
even the whole kind of children's book industry is going to change.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so, just because you failed, quote unquote
Mhm.
failed,
Mhm.
failure, I think, is a catalyst. Sometimes it
Mhm.
can be completely paralyzing, but other times it can be a catalyst for change, and it can motivate you in unexpected ways. So
For sure. For sure.
I think a lot of people, um, have experienced failure or have given up on their art. And in our live chat poll, 78% of people said that they have given up on art on some
Right.
point in their life. So you are part of the norm, I think.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, and so, do you have any tips for people who are about to give up on their art, or who have hit a creative wall and just need some time away from it? Do you have any
Yeah.
tips on maybe
Yeah.
how to approach that?
So the first one is forgive yourself. It's okay. It's life, right? Like there's ups and downs, and we don't have to be perfect. It's normal. Sometimes life happens. It's okay. To me, I really, really wanted to do something very specific. And looking today at that dream, I wouldn't want it anymore. Like, I don't want to be the manga artist in Japan anymore, because that is taxing, that is very difficult, that is very demanding. But I adapted my dreams today. Today, I want to do art and share and maybe do manga again, as in even do it professionally. Yeah, maybe, but not in Japan, not that way I wanted uh, 15 years ago. Like, a lot has changed. And to people that are thinking of quitting, um, I would remove that word quitting, and I would say taking a break, or taking it slow, or you know giving it room to evolve is a good way. And have the permission to do that if you need to, because again, as I said, life is difficult sometimes. But also take away the idea that you're stopping being an artist. And I think, Faye, you helped me with that one. Like, keep the title. You are an artist. If you're doing art, if you did art, if you grab the pencil and doodle stuff, you're an artist, and that's part of you. And if you let things happen, and let things breathe, maybe the passion that the biggest passion you had will return, right? And that is a step that might happen, and you have to believe that it can. But you have to let it evolve as well. And sometimes we have this dream, or this obsession, or this idea that is very difficult, or very, very challenging, and there's so many steps to get there, and we get discouraged. Breaking those down to smaller steps, smaller goals can help. Taking things easier can help as well. Like, do one thing. Don't think about deadlines. Don't think about being this hyper productive person. Just take it slow, and can help as well. Take a creative trip, or a creative journey, or do something that will make your creativity work. Like, it could be going to the park, it could be going to a volleyball match, it could be going to, I don't know, a insect museum and finding cool insects. I don't know, right? Like, it
Live
can
your
be,
life,
yeah,
right?
live your life.
Yeah,
and
live your
and
life.
it can result in something that it's very fulfilling. Like there's one comic that is what's the name of the comic? Dilbert. That is about,
Okay.
yeah,
The
it's
office
about,
nerd. Yeah.
yeah, it's about IT office guys. And
Yeah.
today, as an IT guy, I read that and I like laugh out loud because it's exactly our life. Right? It's
Right.
it's not written by somebody that didn't live that. I can attest to that. He lives that life because he was there, frustrated, seeing his bosses doing those things, and so sometimes a little bit of a break can help. But if you really want to, uh, take it slow and break it down. Like instead of saying that, oh, I need to finish this whole painting today because if I don't do 20 paintings in a month, I'm not going to be successful. Don't
Mhm.
do that to yourself. Don't do that. Try doing baby steps and going to the things that really make you happy. That will help, especially if you're in a rut or you're like you don't have the motivation. um, Allow yourself to not have motivation. I'm not saying that you don't have to have motivation. You need to have motivation, right? Like if you want to do something a long run, be a professional or get paid, yes, you need to be professional about it. You need to be motivated. You need to have consistency. But those are different aspects of art, right? Those are things like any job, you will need those things, right? In my job as a software developer, I need to show up. I need to do the things. I need to go there. The same with art. The difference is that some portions of art we need inspiration and we need to do these things, and those are not necessarily intertwined. And there's the other portion where you can just want to do art without money or job related things involved, which is freeing as well. So it all depends on what you want to do, and all depends on what life is demanding of you. Like if you need money and you need a job right now, that's life, right? You need to do that. Don't I would say let let the pain go away and accept that is okay, right? You're not throwing away your art career. Life is full of turns, and maybe in 6 months you're going to be able to do that, and it's okay, right? Like I think that's one of the things that most people don't that struggle, is that they're penalizing themselves because they dropped out of art. They did something else. They had to take a job. They had to take care of their kids. They had to take care of their family. They had to travel. They had to do something, and they couldn't do art. Yeah, that's I think a lot of people have those situations, and it's I would say allow that to not destroy your relationship with art, because art can be so many different things. And if you really really want to be like an art job with doing art as a profession, or doing commissions, or art gallery or manga, there are steps to try to accomplish those things, and you can definitely do that even in different ages or different steps of your life, right? You don't need to do it when you're 16. You don't need to do it when you're 20. There's no age limit. um, and yeah, for sure there's definitely ways to be connected with art. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a lifelong journey. And I see, I think one of the stories that really stuck with me is I really like this band called the Flaming Lips. I don't know if you guys know of this band, but the Flaming Lips formed in the 80s. They formed literally like a year before I was born, okay, in the 80s. And then it took them 20 years to become mainstream. They had a record deal like 10 years. Imagine being in a band for 10 years, right? Sacrificing all money, like just scraping by because you love music so much. and then you get a deal, the deal doesn't go through, a band member leaves, and it's just like all of these failures, failure after failure after failure. And finally, when they released Yoshimi, and the Soft Bulletin, right, the Flaming Lips actually found mainstream success in 2002. That's like 19 years, I think, right? To keep going. And if you think about the resilience and you think about like how passionate they were to keep going despite all the failures, despite all the setbacks, right? Just to kind of keep your sight set on why it really means that much to you, why you want to keep doing it in the first place, with or without the money, with or without the success. But this is what you were put on the earth to do. If you haven't listened to Yoshimi Battles the Pink Robots, it is one of the most such a good album. Very unexpected sound, very different, also inspired by Japan. But yeah, it just goes to show you that art, whether you're a musician, acting, whether you're a fine artist, or whether you have stories to tell, it really is, it requires a lot of life experience, a lot of wisdom, a lot of shared experiences, some accountability. Sometimes you just need other people who are also creative to kind of help motivate you, to make you feel like you're not alone in this world, which can be very harsh. And I just wanted to highlight a question from Crazy Dash, who is saying, Gabriel, how do you keep motivation for art, even if people criticize your art, or you as a person, or let's say you published a zine and you're like super excited about it, but there are some people who just like don't like it, or because we all deal with haters, right? The internet is a cruel place, but even in real life there could be people who don't like your work. So how do you keep going despite all of this?
Yeah, so that's such an intriguing question, and everybody has thought about that, not just on art but everywhere, right? How do you get motivated? And I go back to the thing that we were talking earlier. It is finding something that you really enjoy doing. It will help immensely. If you're doing something that you don't like doing, it's going to be very difficult for you to get motivated. So if you find something that you really like, it will help. And for me, for instance, when I'm doing my art, music helps, right? And it depends really on the mood that I'm going for. But when we were preparing for zine conventions, we would usually do them like 1 week before. We would all rush onto somebody's house and draw and doing those things. We would put Naruto soundtracks, right? It's very energizing. And anime soundtracks are very, very good at that. And it was inspiring for us because we remembered scenes from the animation that helped us be creative. So motivation is kind of like that. You need to nurture your motivation. You need to say, wow, this is why I'm doing this. You need to find out reason. And most mangas that are popular have information on how to motivate, because usually the protagonist or somebody in the story is trying to do something. They're not very good at it, but they're trying very hard. And some people are not very successful, but they are like very convinced. And even like you can get inspired by that. But to be inspired, it's the basic step that I would say is get something that you really enjoy doing and try to mimic that feeling, trying to mimic that scenario. If you're like doing it with music and other things, when people criticize you as a person, I would do something that I've been struggling my whole life, right? Is not take it personally. And I know it's very difficult, and I know that when people attack you or something that you did, it can feel very, 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 very much personal and very much unique to you. But sometimes people are not in the best mental health themselves, or they're not in their best day of their life, and they just say something because they felt like it, or something else was bothering them. So my advice is not take that too seriously, and try to look at it as an improvement point. Maybe they say something that feels like it's very directed towards you, but I would take it and say, maybe it's just my work, and I can improve on that. And take it with a grain of salt and just let it be, because sometimes people are just in their bad day, and don't take it to you or your art. And sometimes I get frustrated as well, right? Like, I'm sharing my manga, which I, you know, pour my heart into, and people read it in like 3 seconds. I'm like, yeah, it's fine. And I'm like, that's like,
Yeah.
oh my god. And that can be very hard, right? That can be very hard. But then I remember that people have their own lives as well. They're they have their dreams and their things, and sometimes it's not their interest in my stories. And I have friends that they're not into manga or art at all, but if I want to share with them as well. So they're not very much into that, so they're gonna sometimes give feedback that it's not very pleasant. So I take into consideration that they're not very into that, and I take in consideration that sometimes they're not in a good mood. So the best advice that I would say is, don't take it too personal. Like, even if it is a personal attack, and I know that people can do personal attacks or criticize in a way that is very bad or very very harsh. um, don't fall into the black hole of that, right? Like, take it uh, politely in your head, say no, and move on, and trying to find your interior motivation, right? Like, do it because you like doing it, and find things that you like doing, and um, do things because you like doing. The moment that you do it for yourself and you're happy with those, motivation will come, because you want to do it, because you want to do it, right? Like, you like talking about the volleyball, you like talking about the fart jokes, you like talking about those things. So once you do that, nobody else will be able to personally attack you, that you won't be able to recuperate, right? And I was like that before going to Japan. Like, this was back in the early 2000s. Nobody was talking about manga as they're talking today. And nobody understood. Somebody said, "Oh, you're crazy. You want to go to Japan?" But I was so in love with it. There was nothing that anybody could say to me that would make me change. And I'm not saying that I had superpowers, no, but I was really in love with it, and I believed in myself, and my motivation was that I would wake up in the middle of the night to study, to learn Japanese. And it is very hard to do those things, and you have to want to do it, right? And once you do that, motivation will come. It's different if you're asking how to keep motivation if you're doing your job that you hate. Then it's a different set of skills, right? But if it's for art, find something that you really like doing. Like, if you're struggling with something, uh, think, is it something that I really like doing? And find the spark. If you like painting and you're struggling painting, maybe the subject that you're painting is wrong, not the painting itself, not painting, not art, but maybe the subject is wrong. Like, you're trying to paint a banana and fruit, and you're like, I have to study color, but I don't enjoy that. But then you love cars, and then you take a picture of a cars, and it's like, oh, I love this brand, I love this color, I love this. And then you get motivated. Or the same with comics, like, you're trying to create a story about a romance because it's popular in webtoons. There's just romance in webtoons, I'm going to post romance. And you're trying to find motivation, you can't find motivation, you're struggling. But then you think about aliens, and you love aliens, but it's not romance, right? But you love aliens, you love like sci-fi stuff, you love this weird tech that will, like, and then you find motivation out of that. So try to understand why you're not motivated. Is it because it is difficult, or is it because it's not what you like doing? If it's because it's difficult, maybe it's a technique that you can learn. Like, for me, I didn't have motivation with coloring my manga because I didn't know how to paint, I didn't know how to choose colors, so I didn't find motivation at all to do those things. So it wasn't manga, it wasn't color, it was a lack of knowledge of something. So maybe
Mm.
you need to take some time and say, okay, there is a skill that I lack, that if I knew how to do it, it would be so easy. I would be able to do those things. Like, a lot of people struggle drawing hands, right? Like, they don't want to draw hands, and they like everybody in their saying hands in their pockets, and um, you know, it is a skill, and it needs to be practiced and learned, and it can help. So maybe if you're lacking motivation, it could be something that you're missing, and if you can identify it, maybe you can revert to that motivation, and then you're going to be like, I know artists that love drawing hands, and they like every single pose that they put like that, they're doing this weird stuff because they love it, and they're motivated by it. So bottom line, motivation can be different things for different scenarios. Try to find why you're lacking motivation. If it's because of technical thing that you don't know, maybe try learning that, or asking for
Mm.
help to learn that. If it's the subject, maybe the subject, you can change the subject to something that you really like doing. Like, if you're trying to do something that you're not passionate about, it's gonna impact your motivation. And people criticize, unfortunately, yes, they do. They will criticize your art and even you. And sometimes they do it is out of spite, which is horrible. Don't take those into consideration. But sometimes they do it because they don't know better, right? Like, they are just trying to be helpful, but they're not. They can even love you very much, and they can say something that you were not expecting, like, oh, and that oh was horrible, right? Like, oh, I was expecting you to say, I was expecting you to say, oh my god, but they said, oh, and like that crushed you.
Yeah.
That can be very hard, but don't take it personally. Take it like, people are different, people have their own lives, they see things differently, and the person that you have to impress the most is yourself. If you impress yourself, if you're happy with yourself, if you're happy doing what you like doing, if you write a story that you like reading, if you paint the painting that you like painting and seeing, you're going to be happy, and criticism is going to come and go, and you're going to be fine because yourself, you're happy with it.
Yeah, well said, for sure. I think you have to remember who you're creating for, and a lot of people will pass judgment just because they're moody, right? Like you said, Gabriel. And even we judge our own art sometimes harshly. Like, sometimes I'm like, oh, I hate this, and then I step away, and then I come back and I'm in a better mood, and I'm like, oh, this is actually not that bad. So, like, I catch myself doing it. And I think that, that's what makes us human, and we have to remember that we are not there to please everybody, that you have to find your niche. And even when I was selling that fart zine, I saw some people who would walk by and like, and they would like walk right by. They got the joke, but they didn't really care that much about farting. And then I saw some people who like saw the book, picked it up, and they were like, oh my, they were dying laughing, right? And so, like, you connect with certain people. The people that you don't connect with are the people who criticize you or pass judgment. They're just not your fans, and you have to get used to the idea of being more niche, right? And
Mhm.
just accepting that your stuff is not for everybody. Um, so I think the most important or the most exciting part about the whole sort of independent publishing or this entire dream of being or a mangaka, or let's just say being a comic artist and producing your own comics. Self-publishing barriers today are lower than ever, right? It means that you can draw a zine and photocopy it and publish it the next day, or even leave it at the library and just see what people think. But now we have so many tools and platforms designed to support creators. Things like Webtoon or Kickstarter. Lots of people have Patreon, or like digital distribution. Lots of contest opportunities out there for artists. Had you had the resources that you had today, let's say 20 years ago, or when you were going to school in Japan, do you think that would have made a difference?
I think so.
Yeah.
I still think that I would crash and burn like I did. At the time, I was thinking about something very specific, but I think it would make a difference. And back in 2000, early 2000, we used to use DeviantArt a lot. There was already some platforms online that we could share our work. But it was different. It's not like today where you have this big platform where like Webtoons, where you can put your art there, tapas and other things. It's quite different today, but definitely would have changed. And there is a sense that today, with the media that we have online, we can share things throughout the globe easily.
Yeah.
Something that back in 2000 wasn't as easy, right? Like you could have your art, but it wasn't immediately in a big free a platform, right? Even Instagram, it wasn't like that, right? You didn't have Instagram back then. You had like Orkut, or even Facebook was beginning, so it was a different time. So we relied more on physical zines than digital, and the digital ones were very niche. People didn't read them as much as today. There weren't apps like we have today. Like today, if you want, there are platforms that are in your cell phone as an app. Very easy, very accessible. Everybody can have them. So you find more people. So definitely would have changed a lot if the technology that we have today was present back then. And it does help me today as well, right? Like it is something. Even classes with Winged Canvas is I do them online. I'm not physically close to you guys. I'm in Montreal, so it's definitely it helps for sure.
Yeah, I think that with the landscape we have today, it's almost like there's too much opportunity that we don't even know where to go, or there's too much information out there and we don't know who to listen to. So now it's more of a filtering and trust issue, whereas before it was just lack of exposure, right?
Yeah.
And even with Winged Canvas, I mean, we started off as a physical school, and when we went online, we told the world we're here for the art nerds. We're here for the, for the people who love storytelling and the people who love, to use their art to tell stories for visual storytelling. And then what do you know? We found nerds all over the world who love art and technology, and here we are. We're a global community. So I think in some respects, COVID definitely changed the world. It made us realize that we don't need to go to a physical location to reap the benefits, and that we can find people all around the world who are just like us, who went through similar shared experiences that you could connect to on a whole different level. It's just so exciting to me, the whole notion of self-publishing, and now you can fund something on Kickstarter, right? And you could say, hey, I'm doing this thing, and you can test it even before you launch it. So just like you said with a zine, right? It's like very low barrier. If you have an idea for a story, make a zine, test it, get feedback, see if there's interest in it. Before you actually invest all of this and produce it. yeah, so then I know we're getting close to the end, and I just wanted to pick your brain about a few other things. So, very rapid
Yeah.
fire.
Yeah.
What advice would you give your younger self? If you were 18 years old today, what would you give your
Don't
younger self?
be too critical of yourself. Yeah. I think that would be the advice.
Be kind to yourself.
Yeah. Yeah. Be
Yeah.
kind.
Yeah, be kind to yourself. I think that's something that a lot of people struggle with because we're so hard on ourselves because we see so much success, on Instagram. We see all these artists who are better than us and we feel like we're never going to get there, but we don't see the pain. We don't see the suffering.
Mm.
We don't see them posting pictures of themselves tearing out their hair or their ugly whips or all the stuff that gets thrown away. So it's so easy to compare ourselves to the best versions or the published versions of other people. So definitely being kind to yourself. And what about, okay, so being kinder to yourself. What about skills? So if you were 18 years old today, and you wanted to be an artist or you wanted to publish a comic one day, what would you do first, second, and third?
Okay. One thing that I wouldn't change is still doing zines, like from the start.
Yeah.
Grab paper, fold it in half, and start doing your zines. Like don't separate those things. Like don't wait until you're perfect to start doing those things. That I wouldn't change, but I would
Okay.
definitely learn the basics and fundamentals. And this is something that I've been doing for the last 5 years or so with Winged Canvas, like color, like forms, like all the theory that might seem that you don't need it for manga because manga has all these different types of things. I would still learn them because they will help you break the rules if you want to, but they will help
Mm.
you do stuff the way that you want to do. And one of the struggles that I had was I had all this imagination in my head. I had all these things. And then when I tried to do them, I couldn't transform what was in my head to the paper because I lacked techniques. And there are techniques that you can learn. So yeah, go back to basics and practice and do them. And repetition. There's a lot of repetition. Yeah, there's a lot of repetition for sure.
Yeah. So learn the fundamentals and don't chase or don't save all of your best work until it's perfect. Get it
Yeah,
out there into the world.
yeah.
Right, is a big part of it. And I didn't even learn about testing until I was immersed in business. Right, with business, everything is about testing. You got to test
Mhm.
it. You got to spend some money, test it out, see what people think. Right, and we don't really know that as artists,
Yeah,
because as artists we always want it to publish when it's perfect, right? And
yeah,
and that definitely delays a lot of the progress.
yeah. I
Yeah.
think I think with comics, one advice that I would give specifically to comics, right? Don't start with 1,000-page comics that you have this huge idea. Okay, don't do that. And I've seen a lot of people do that. Like, if you do those things, it will take so long for you to get it done that by the time that you're done, you're so exhausted about it, and maybe you don't get the feedback that you want, right? Because maybe it's something that only you like, but nobody else likes, or it's not something that you really, really like, or it's not something like you improved. By the time that you're in page 50, your art has changed, your techniques have changed. So, my advice would be to start very small, 5 pages, 8 pages, 10 pages, get it out, get feedback, do the next one, do the next one. And then once you've comfortable doing a lot, then go for the 1,000-page story.
Good advice. Little climb that hill. Do the bunny hills before you do
Yeah.
the the mountains, right? Cool. And what excites you the most about the future?
Oh, possibilities, art, doing stuff. Like I've since I've started with traditional art, like there's this whole world that opened to me. Like I've started connecting with art pieces and reconnecting with manga. And there's even a manga that talks a lot about this. Is Blue Sky Blue. It's about a kid in school that he doesn't know what to do after school, and then suddenly he discovers fine arts, and it's like so like his mind blows. It's and the animation is gorgeous, and the manga too. But yeah, so there's so many things that we can do today, and art is still very um, part of me. So I've been doing the art and doing my pieces. I've been painting a lot. I've been doing different things, different stories. I have been revisiting my old things, my old story, translating them, because some are in Japanese, some in Portuguese, some in English. So I've been translating them and sharing and regaining this part of me, yeah, that I've unfortunately put aside for a while, but getting back to it.
That's awesome. Well, you guys are in luck because Gabriel's a wealth of knowledge with all of his experiences. Because he was teaching manga before he went to study in Japan. He's already doing it, and so if you are looking for ways to share your comics or thinking about studying Japan, or you want to make your own zine, Gabriel has put together a comics, like a manga comics and zine resource guide. And in it, it has a lot of the resources that he would recommend, like contests, awards, and other resources, specifically, like if you want to study in Japan, things like scholarships, and then even like a how to make your own zine, where to share that, and all different platforms for publishing your comics. Join our Discord, and you could just DM us the word manga. So MANGA. You just join our Discord, send us a DM, and we'll send you over that guide. Thank you so much, Gabriel, for sharing it, and being here today and sharing your experience to all of the people who are interested in this journey for themselves.
Yeah, thank you for having me. It was my pleasure. Yeah.
Well, guys, thank you. If you're still here, thank you so much for all of your comments and all of your questions. If you do have more questions, definitely join our Discord. We have a community there. We have a Get Advice channel where you can go in, and if I didn't get to you, you can even tag me, and I'll be sure to answer some of your questions. I know, John MW, you asked a lot of good questions too. One of them I didn't get to ask, but you were saying, like, for example, if you were published in Shonen Jump, and they have those polls there, right?
Yeah.
And with the fan suggestions, so let's say the fan suggested that you want that they want a certain character to do X, and you wanted something different.
Yeah.
Should you water down your story?
Yeah.
Or should you be the what would happen if you didn't give the fans what they wanted?
So Shonen Jump is a very specific thing. So if you're doing zines and you're doing your own thing, do your own thing. Like don't listen too much. If you want to and you feel like, oh yeah, let's do this. Shonen Jump is like a publisher. They have contracts, so you're basically doing also what you're told to do, right? So when you're publishing in Japan with a publisher, you're going to have an editor assigned to you, and this editor is going to help you create the story, like go in the right direction. And even big mangakas sometimes have to fold to what is being decided. And one example I would give is even with Dragon Ball, right? Like this is a very, very famous from Akira Toriyama, and he's like a big manga artist, right? Very, very big. And when he started doing like a second portion, like it's Dragon Ball Z, known here in North America, he introduced a character called Gohan, which is the Goku's son, right? And the idea, his initial idea was that Gohan would be the new protagonist. And that was what he wanted. And in the first chapters of Dragon Ball Z, that was what he wanted. But the public hated it. Public
Oh.
wanted Goku. So what happened? He changed the story back to Goku being the protagonist. So there's definitely uh, a commercial side of it, right? Like if you're doing something published for a company like Shonen Jump, Shueisha, right? There are editors. There's a lot of people dealing with that. They will help you and guide you towards what the public wants. But that's a very specific thing for when you are being published. And I think that's what Faye was mentioning before with children books as well. Like
Mhm.
the editors and the publishers will ask for a few things, and unfortunately that's how the money talks, right? It's what's they're paying you to do something. So unfortunately, not everything is going to be your decision in those situations. But if you're self-publishing, if you're doing your own thing, go do what you like. And if people advise you or tell you, oh, you should do this, take it into consideration. But do what you want to do. It's your thing.
Right. That's definitely a good point, because when there are other people and there's other stakes, right? Then
Yeah,
you kind of, if it's a paid job, like just like if you're doing a commission and your
yeah,
client says, I want his shirt to be green, but you really want it to be red, well, and you're going to lose a client if you fight for that red shirt instead of just like give him the green, right? Like, whereas it really doesn't matter. So again, that's kind of where you decide what you want to do with your art. Well, listen, Gabriel, thank you so much. And before we go, how can people find you and connect with you?
yeah, sure. So I have Instagram, and I recently started a webtoon page where I'll publish some of my old stuff and my new stuff. So yeah, and Gabriel
Here we
Straw.
go.
Yeah, and Instagram is Lilo Draws, which is my other artist name, and at Webtoons is Gabriel Straw. Yeah,
Yeah, and you can find Gabriel on our Discord as well.
yeah,
And yeah, thank you so much. Thank you guys for
yeah,
tuning in. It was an awesome time, and I will see you guys next time.
yeah. Thank you,
Bye.
Faye. Thank
Thank
you,
you,
everyone. Bye bye.
Gabriel. Bye.